When I opened my eyes, I saw I was lying on the ground. My whole body had a wet, damp feeling. I looked at the street from where I was lying. It was icy in some places. The wetness on my skin did not make me shiver on a night when the ground was frozen like this. I am usually a sick person who gets very cold, but I understood that I was not affected by the cold. At first, this made me feel happy, but then it suddenly made me jump, and a strange worry started inside me. Worry, surprise, wet clothes, a cold, icy night, and a feeling I cannot name exactly. Something I did not have before, something I never felt. After this waking up and realizing in a few seconds, I tried to stand up slowly. I had clearly been under the rain for a long time. There was no dry cloth left on me. I was wet to my bones. I stood up on one arm and tried to look around well. Where exactly was I? Across from where I stood up, there was a building entrance. It was an old 3-story apartment door. The plaster was falling off. It had iron bars on the lower windows to stop thieves. It had 2 steps in front. The yellow streetlights hit the curtain patterns, and a smell of slight hopelessness came out. When I turned my head a little to the left, I understood I was at a 4-way junction. Diagonally across from the apartment, there was a corner market, and across from that, another apartment. This one, like the building right across from me, looked a little run down, a little alone, and a little in danger. It was a narrow junction with no very wide passages. It did not look like a place I had been to before, but I was not too strange to it. Where was I? What time was it? How did I come here? The last thing I remember was the party. We celebrated my friend's birthday at an old bar. It was a fun, silly, and enjoyable night. What happened after that? While I thought about all this, I also tried to stand up and fix my clothes, but the situation did not look like it would get better. I was soaking wet and in the mud. Suddenly, I raised my head and looked at the sky. It was a clear, very clean, cool winter night full of stars. And despite all this wetness, night, and cold, I was still not shaking. Or maybe it was not that cold. Maybe the icy street made me think the weather was very cold. Maybe there was not enough coolness to care about. Finally, I put my mind together and remembered to look at the clock. It was 0415. It was 15 minutes past the crack of dawn, and I was here. I remembered I left the party around 2300 at the latest to catch the last bus. I hugged the birthday girl, I said goodbye to the other friends, and left the bar. That's all. In my mind, I could only get to the moment I left the bar and walked on the road. Is it normal that I feel so strong? I thought. God, I had to go home. Even though I felt good, I was scared. Anything could happen in this deserted neighborhood where no one was. Perverts, maniacs, thieves, aggressive neighborhood dogs that do not like strangers. My God, the list was getting longer. I had to go home quickly, but how? Going from a place you do not know to a place you do know did not look easy. But even if I could not go home, I should at least find a place I felt a little safer. I thought the door of the building across from me was probably locked. Still, there was no harm in trying. I walked towards the door with slow and scared steps. I went up the small steps in front of the house. I was doing my best not to make noise and wake anyone up. I held the doorknob and tried to turn it right and left, but it did not work. It was a strong iron door. I could not try my luck anymore. I slowly turned around and looked at the other options. All the options went in the same possible way. I had no idea about any of them. So I went down the steps and turned to the right. The street became more scary as I walked. After 3 or 4 steps, I came to a slope that was not very long, but short and steep. Slopes like this are usually in poor, slum neighborhoods, and these neighborhoods are not very safe like middle-class or rich neighborhoods. Down the slope and along the street were small, old buildings or detached houses, some 1-story, some 2 or 3 stories. Small homes lined up, away from order and beauty, but with a sincere smile. I walked down the slope with careful and slow steps. I was praying inside. God, please do not let a dog come out in front of me. You know I love animals, but it's not the time on a street of a dark night. After the slope, the street went on for 100 or 200 meters more. Then it met another road. Here, too, I decided to turn left. The other side looked darker and more quiet. This road was wider and better maintained than the other streets. My feelings told me that if I walked a little more, I could find a place to spend the last few hours before it got light. I kept walking. There were buildings close to each other on both sides of the street. They looked better than the street I left above, but I couldn't find a place to hide. Either the doors were locked or the places were not safe. I kept walking. The only difference from the street where I woke up was that here at least there was a sidewalk, and slowly shops began to increase. So far, only 1 or 2 cars had passed on the road. My palms felt numb from stress and strangely started to itch. Still, I was not cold, not tired, or not feeling exhausted. This was strange. While my mind and body fought, I suddenly noticed that an apartment door was open. It looked like a well-kept and clean place. I thought it would be enough for a few hours. It was not very light around. I could see as much as the streetlights wanted me to see. I quietly slipped inside. There was no lighting system, or I couldn't find one. The streetlights didn't care much about this point. If my phone's battery hadn't died right after showing me the time, it would be very useful now. Although if it hadn't, I would have called the police right away and asked for help. Oh, I'm in a pitiable, helpless, and terrible situation. While muttering quietly like this, I noticed that it was not so dark. Strangely, I saw the narrow stairs, the stair railings, and the materials placed randomly in the space under the stairs. It was as if I was wearing night vision goggles. Then I understood that there was a frosted green glass behind the iron parts of the entrance door. Sudden realizations kept making my heart jump. I took a deep breath and found a space enough for me under the stairwell. A few pieces of cardboard and newspaper would not keep me warm, but they would at least make me comfortable while sitting. I covered the empty space I found with them, sat down by pulling my knees toward me, and closed my eyes for a moment.
Is it comfortable enough?
What?
On the ground, on the ground, on the ground. Damp feeling, damp feeling, damp feeling. Shiver, shiver, shiver. Not affected by the cold, not affected by the cold, not affected by the cold. Made me feel happy, made me feel happy, made me feel happy. Suddenly, suddenly, suddenly. Wake up, wake up, wake up. Wet to my bones, wet to my bones, wet to my bones. Hopelessness, hopelessness, hopelessness. Four-way junction, four-way junction, four-way junction. Across from, across from, across from. Celebrate, celebrate, celebrate. Silly, silly, silly. Enjoyable night, enjoyable night, enjoyable night. Look like, look like, look like. Soaking wet, soaking wet, soaking wet. Mud, mud, mud. Raised my head, raised my head, raised my head. Cool winter night, cool winter night, cool winter night. And despite, and despite, and despite. Coolness, coolness, coolness. Crack of down, crack of down, crack of down. Hug, hug, hug. Even though, even though, even though. Deserted neighborhood, deserted neighborhood, deserted neighborhood. Pervert, pervert, pervert. Maniac, maniac, maniac. Thief, thief, thief. Quickly, quickly, quickly. Even if, even if, even if. There was no harm in trying. There was no harm in trying. There was no harm in trying. Doorknob, doorknob, doorknob. Slope, slope, slope. Steep, steep, steep. Quietly, quietly, quietly. Slum neighborhood, slum neighborhood, slum neighborhood. Detached house, detached house, detached house. At least, at least, at least. Line up, line up, line up. Sincere smile, sincere smile, sincere smile. Pray, pray, pray. Stairwell, stairwell, stairwell. Come out, come out, come out. Decide, decide, decide. Sudden realization, sudden realization, sudden realization. frosted, frosted, frosted.